In 1900, the Russian Empire spanned nearly a sixth of the Earth's landmass, stretching from the frozen edges of Europe to the Pacific. It was held together by a monarchy that had remained unchanged for 3 centuries. Ruling this expanse was Tsar Nicholas II. He relied on the doctrine of divine right, the conviction that God alone placed him on the throne, and he used this belief to ignore earthly criticism and avoid political compromise. His inner circle deepened this isolation. A wandering mystic named Rasputin gained outsized influence over the royal court, which paralyzed government decisions and alienated the nobility who once provided the crown's support. Outside the palace, the reality was stark. The peasant majority faced persistent famine and relied on subsistence farming techniques that had seen little advancement since the Middle Ages. An empire of this scale projects strength on a map, but geographic size offers no protection when a government loses touch with the basic survival needs of its population. In an attempt to modernize, Russia pushed for rapid urbanization. This expansion forced thousands of workers into St. Petersburg, packing them into diseased, overcrowded slums that lacked basic sanitation. This physical proximity condensed peasant grievances. Isolated rural misery turned into organized, concentrated urban anger. Abroad, the state faced further humiliation. In 1904, the Russian military was defeated by Japan, exposing tactical weaknesses. The fracture point arrived in January 1905. Peaceful workers marched to the palace to beg for economic relief. The Tsar's guards opened fire on the unarmed crowd, killing hundreds. We can view the stability of the Russian state as resting on 3 load-bearing pillars: a functioning economy, military strength, and the legitimacy of the Tsar. The industrial crisis and the defeat in Japan had already compromised the first 2. Bloody Sunday destroyed the third, causing the system to buckle. World War I provided the final pressure test. Millions of under-equipped peasants were drafted and sent to the front lines, where they faced cataclysmic casualties against modern German artillery. Military discipline broke under the strain. Starving, freezing troops abandoned their posts by the thousands, leading to mass mutinies officers could no longer control. As the Tsarist system failed, a new framework filled the vacuum. Karl Marx's theories of class struggle reached Russia, arguing that the working class should seize power from the wealthy elite. Vladimir Lenin engineered this theory into a weapon. He built the Bolsheviks, a disciplined extremist party designed to execute a specific professional takeover of the government. When an empire's military collapses at the same time a disciplined political alternative emerges, the existing government loses its ability to enforce its own survival. This collapse occurred in 2 stages. First, in February 1917, the starving population of Petrograd flooded the streets in a spontaneous, bottom-up uprising demanding bread and peace. When the military garrisons joined the protesters instead of firing on them, the monarchy's enforcement power vanished. Nicholas II was forced to abdicate, ending 300 years of Romanov rule. The provisional government that followed made a critical error. They kept Russia in the war. This decision ignored the primary demand of the people who had just toppled the Tsar. Lenin exploited this error to launch the October Revolution, shifting the public's anti-war frustration into a tactical military coup. Bolshevik forces captured key infrastructure across Petrograd and stormed the Winter Palace, seizing the seat of government and establishing control over the state apparatus. This sequence shows the mechanics of the collapse. A massive organic movement for relief was captured and redirected by a small, organized faction seeking absolute power. The palace coup led to years of further violence. A brutal civil war erupted between the Bolshevik Red Army and a coalition of rival factions, resulting in millions of additional deaths. By 1922, the Bolsheviks had cleared their opposition, leading to the official formation of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR. The old imperial symbols were removed and replaced by a centralized socialist apparatus that exerted total control over the economy and political life. This new superpower would grow into a global force, dictating the terms of international conflict for the next 7 decades. The fall of the Russian Empire demonstrates that when a government fails to address the basic suffering of its people, it creates a void, and as history shows, That void is often claimed by the most